Hi guys, and welcome back to doing a little bit more railway modelling on my little bench here. The layout's on the floor because we've got nowhere else to put it at the minute. So what are we going to look at today? Today we're going to quickly look at my post. First thing I got this week was some Pro Track from Model Tech rail aligners. I've got 2 packets of those because I haven't decided yet whether on this layout I'm going to do like a cassette system or a traverser system on the end of it, but I shall use these to align up the end of the board. Now I had painted the track, so I really should have got these before I'd done that, but yeah, I'll solder these on and it'll all be good anyway. And then I've got some more paintbrushes. This one is scenic, but it can be used for various bits and bobs, just to add up the last order to secure free shipping from Perth. You know, a couple more flat paint brushes, and more importantly a load of paint, because I'm lacking in the basic colours of blacks or whites and things. So now that my paint has arrived, primarily the black, which is what I wanted to start with, and I went through my drawer and nothing. I'm sure I've got a tin of Humbrol matte black somewhere, but I couldn't find it, so what I've got now is some Tamiya acrylics and some paint thinners, just to make it a bit easier on the airbrush. And I'm also going to try is the Army Painter War Paints. I've got some black from him and some thinners as well, just to give them a go. Got some Battleship Grey and some white as well, so I'm stocked up on colours. So what we're going to look at today, or over the next couple of days, I want to get it all finished, is painting of the buildings. Now obviously we've got the station building, the signal box and the shed to do. Now the first thing I'm going to do is the signal box and the station building here. I'm going to go and give them a blow over with some matte black, because if I do put a light in any of these buildings, I don't want any light bleed. Not so much of a problem with this one because it's wood, but the signal box being 3D printed resin, they can be a bit translucent, so the black hides that, and then we'll just paint over those in the black. Then we'll paint over the black in the colours that we want, which will also give a bit of artificial shading underneath anyway. So we can see how that works out. The shed here, I'm not going to worry about painting it black first, because I'm not going to be lighting it up and you're only going to see it from the outside. So that one's easy. We'll just paint that some colours and a bit of weathering. So first thing I'm going to do is crack on with my airbrush. I'm going to take it outside and give these a coat of black. So what I've done is I've blown over the whole body black, and then the top half of the signal box just airbrushed it white, and the canopy on the station underneath there just a light dusting, because I don't want a bright white freshly painted finish. I just want some dirty colouring coming through from underneath. Now one thing that has happened is I've had a reaction between the black paint and the white. One's Tamiya and the other one was this War Paints stuff, and it's just crazed, like, which works well for what I want. I don't want freshly painted signal box, so that has gone wrong, but again, like the wall on the station, it's gone wrong in a good way. Now the basic stone colour I'm going to use is Flat Earth by Tamiya. I'm going to get the base colour of all the stonework on that and the station, and this I'm just going to brush on. I'm not going to airbrush it. Flat brushes are good for this sort of thing. Simple as. And I'll come back once I've given a base colour to all the brickwork on here and on the station building. Well, here we are the following day, so these have had all night to go off. Now it's too dark for what I want the finished colours to be, so that's no problem. what we'll just do is I'll go over with this, what do they call this? Wooden deck tan, and lighten it up. And I'm just going to do this as dry brushing. I reckon this is a more of a sandstone colour. Oh, that's much better. And all I'm doing is just a scrubbing over. Scrub, scrub. With very little paint on the brush. But it's enough to make a difference. And that really starts to highlight the bricks and leaves the dark shadows. So it's working well. That is a much better colour and weathered, ready to start to picking out some of the other extra details on here. As you can see, I've made a difference to the door frame here, and what I'm using is some of the deck tan with a little spot of white and some thinners, just to make it slightly lighter. And I'm just loading up my thinnish brush and I'm just laying it over the top and let it run in. It's like a wash. I don't want it too hard. I want it to flow, and I want it to sort of stain more than cover fully. I'm not worried about it going up the mortar joints. I just want to make the door frames and the window frames stand out, and because it's more of a wash, it just sort of shades. As it dries off, it shades it out a bit rather than a hard colour. And I shall work around all the corners of the building and all the door frames and the window frames, the lintels. And just touch them in. And as well as the window frames, we do all the corner bricks, because they were partly decorative as well. So looking at the pictures of Barnstaple Station, they were a lighter colour sandstone than the main part of the body of the wall, so they just stood out, hence the picking out of the detail on the end here. And it also hides again the PVA that I've stuck in the holes in the end there to disguise the unevenness of the kit when you put the corners together. Just gently move it about and in the corners there, still with a wet brush. And it doesn't look as harsh on real life as it does in the camera, as you can see in the windows there. And once that dries off and it darkens up a touch, that'll be fine. So there we go. And I shall now continue on doing where I've started on the Signalbox. You can see the ends there and around the window frames, and picking out the bricks on the pillars. I shall go around finishing off the corners. Not a lot to do really, just the corners. Now these front windows are done. Okay, for the next bit, what I'm going to do now is add a bit of the darker brown to the lighter brown there. And we're going to pick out a few darker sandy colours. Don't need much, that'll do, just to break that down a bit. So we're sort of darker than it was, but not as dark as. There we go, that'll do. And looking at the photographs, there's just a few of the bricks will have a slightly darker colour. A streak, like a iron coloured streak, is what we're working towards. And we'll just pick out some random bricks in the darker colour. I think I can add a bit more darkness. Yeah, definitely could do with going darker looking at the camera. So bear with me, I'll find some darker brown. So with my Humbrol 70, I'm just using it neat out of the container. I'm just going to random streaks here and there, not necessarily the whole brick, but just even just a corner of a brick or a touch of a brick. Just occasional here and there, just a few. And I'll repeat that on the station building. So having completed that with the brown, I'm going to get a dark grey and do the same again. A few occasional bricks just to make little seams in the sandstone, and then we can get on with painting the roofs and picking out the details on the railings on the signal box. And good morning, it's the following day. So this is where we got to yesterday. I painted the roof grey, picked out the brackets there in Southern Railway green that I had, you know, painted black the doors and the downpipes, and so you painted the ridge tiles and the chimney pots in a sort of terracotta colour. And on the signal box I've done the same. I've picked out the handrails in black, sort of a grey wooden colour for the platforms, and just, you know, picked out the little details, and inside I've a rough interior. I didn't video the painting of all that little detail because you couldn't actually see what I was painting because my hand's in the way. I mean, these are being TT small models, it's not like when I was doing my O-gauge stuff where you've got plenty of room to see what's going on. I had to paint them off camera really, just for practicalities. What I'm going to do now is something I didn't do yesterday, which I did actually have time to do but hadn't thought of it at the time because it had been a longish day, is I'm going to mix up some more greys and pick out some different roof tiles on the station building and on the signal box. And then all we have to do is add a couple of washes and varnish. Maybe a little bit of pigment just to weather some specific areas, but we're getting close. My little pot here, I'll put 3 drops of black paint. I'm going to add about half a dozen white, and all I'm going to do is continue to add white paint, but I'm also going to add some thinner and flow improver to it as well, just to help with the keeping it from drying out before I actually get to use it. Give it a minute, see what colour we come up with. And what I'm going to do, that's a very grey, it's a very similar grey. I'm going to add a bit of Battleship Grey, which is more of a blue colour. We'll add some of that, just to change the tone slightly. It's a slightly different colour, so what I'll do is pick out a few roof tiles. Just random. Doesn't show up that much, but I think you get the gist of it. And we do the same on the Signalbox. And what I'll do now is add another couple of drops of white. And do it all again. Righty ho. So now we've got, like 4 different colours of tiles on the roof, just to make individual things stand out. And I'll just dry brush, just to clean the brush on the roofs, flat roofs there, just to show a bit of texture, so it's not just uniform grey. So the final part that we're going to do, really, before we seal it all in with varnish, is one last bit of dry brushing. So I'm just going to use some black for this. Little spot of black. Again, I'm just going to add a little bit of thinners because I don't want it to go off too quick in the pot. Just a few drips. And using a big flat brush, mix that up. This brush might be a bit soft, but a manky old bit of tissue. Just get a bit on there, dry it off. Try not to have it on my fingers because I don't want it everywhere, and just around the bottom. My eyes back on again. Keep you in the shot. I'm just going to brush upwards around the bottom. It's a bit wet. I'm going to rub some off with my finger as well if there's a bit much, just to sort of add a bit of damp and dirt around the base of the building. Where it rains a lot, just say that, so just dirt is up the bottom, splashed dirt, and then with a smaller brush, exactly the same, really dry off the brush, So there's very little paint, and we can do sort of in the nooks and crannies just to highlight things, and under the roofs. Create a bit of shadow, pull things down. Around the gutters here, and the downpipes. Just to show some age. And dirt in the corners. On the gutter. Yeah, we just get that there. And especially on the valance, this end mainly, because this is the end where the locos are more likely to park. And it's literally the most minimal amount of paint you can get on the brush. But what we can do, if we get a little too thick a bit, we'll just get a little bit of thinners on the brush, dry it off a bit, and thin that little blob out. There we go, just lift that out a bit. So just give it a little wash. With that little bit of thinners, we just, now the thinners is dirty, we just, yeah, wash that on there. Just to dirty it down a bit. And of course we mustn't forget the chimneys, which will get dirty. And that I will use the wash. Just to pick out the detail on the chimney caps. And that starts to blend the chimney in nicely. So, creating another bit of a wash, a few more drips of thinners, a bit of black paint, and wrap it around the chimney. And then we're use the wash and the big brush to do the roof. And we'll let that dry, and that will be it, I reckon. And call that a day. So we'll put that over there, and we'll do the same with the Signalbox. Oops. And we'll just let those dry off. I'm just going to hopefully not wreck it. And I reckon they look good. I'll even add a bit on the brickwork just to blend that in a bit and highlight the courses. And there we go. Hopefully one dirty filthy station building and one dirty filthy signal box. And that is everything blended in. So let it dry, and then I'll get my airbrush, give it a coat of matte varnish to seal it all in, and we'll plonk them on the layout and see what they look like. So there we have the finished article. That's the signal box there, just placed in position, generally dirty. The roof's not attached yet because I want to install a light, and still got to glaze it, but yeah, I'm happy with how that's come out and fits in there nicely in with the landscape. And now this is nice and gloomy and horrible, but that's the plan. I want to fit some lights under the station canopy, and there will be a couple of other little bits and pieces that I do to the station building, because it won't look quite the same when it's all finished, but that's the look of the station building that I wanted, and that will live about there somewhere, neglected. That's the air that I'm trying to give. And once the little DMU bubble car just runs in and out, we don't have anything else here, that sort of gives the scene and effect that I'm looking for. So I'm really happy with how these have come out. Nicely dirty, sort of, you know, well overdue looking after. The station building's going to be even more uncared for, shall we say, by the time I finish with that. But the signal box have lighting in, we've got to put the glazing in. Won't have to show you that, it's just gluing in the plastic sheet. This will be slightly different, but yeah, a couple of lights in just to illuminate the platform. Get these both mounted in. I've got a couple of parts in the post that I want to put in the ground before I stick the ground cover on, but we'll start to fill this up now with a bit of scenery now that the main buildings are done. So if you have any observations, questions and things like that, just stick them in the comments below. You always know the score. You've been here before, you've been there, seen it, done it. So anyway, please like and subscribe. It does help in getting my videos out there, and I'll see you soon for the next one. Bye for now.